Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. And I am an IBPYP teacher, and today I am taking this webinar on negotiating, on the title Negotiation in Classrooms. Mm, this topic talks basically about the fundamentals to build a negotiation culture in the classroom, specifically primary classrooms. Talking about 21st century, enhanced PYP always highlights that on the holistic development of the learner. And holistic development of the learner definitely involves the skills that a learner needed to survive in 21st century. And negotiation skill is one such skills that need to be uh, fostered in the classroom from the tender age to practice it for the students to develop it more through their education or the learning process. Taking this webinar to the main points, let me start it. And one more time, everyone, please welcome to the webinar and thank you for connecting to me. Negotiation in class. So this is a very new practice for me that I have started imbibing in my classroom and lesson plans in my teaching learning process. And so for me, how and what negotiation look like in a classrooms. So I have tried to define it, a process that speakers go through to reach a clear understanding of each other, asking for clarification, rephrasing, and confirming what you think you have understood. Often in the discussion, students have shared their perspectives. Sometimes they agree, sometimes they don't agree with the learnings that we uh, share with them, or the learnings or the perspective we shared with them. So listening to the being one active listener is one thing. Negotiating on their perspective is the culture that I am practicing these days in my classroom. So let's learn more about negotiation in the classrooms. Why when we talk about negotiations skills, like understanding each other's point of view, agreeing the disagree, and understanding the perspective, why we need that culture in our primary classroom. Learning the art of negotiation can make your classroom uh, aware of constant learning struggles between students and teachers. I'm sorry, I repeat myself. Learning the art of negotiation can make your classrooms a place of constant learning as struggles between students or between students. And these moments, when they share some different perspective to the classroom, and you ask them why their perspective is correct, or why do they think the perspective they are sharing is justified. Those are the teachable moments where big inquiry can happen. The place where authentic questions in the classroom can arise. So here I feel the three main points why negotiation culture is very, very important in the classroom, because it make learners feel heard and understood. Each learner comes in the classroom with some experience, okay, with some observation, with some perspective. No learner in the class walk as a clean slate. Everyone has something with them, maybe some small learning, maybe the things they observe outside, maybe the culture from which they're coming. So they have a lot of experience and observation with them. So it is high chance that their perspective many times differs from yours. And as a learner and as a teacher, we both need to respect each other's space. So to negotiation culture basically make learners feel heard and understood, that their perspective is being respected and being heard and understood. At least the teacher is trying an effort, taking a step to understand what they are trying to convey. Second is, negotiation is not just one day process. It's not that one day teacher and student negotiated with each other and it's done for the entire year. No, of course it's a continuous practice in the classroom, and this practice enhance the social and communication skills of the students a lot. Because as we said on the first slide when we discussed how the negotiation looks in the classroom, it says it's discussing and rephrasing and trying to understand each other's view. So of course, for that, a student do need to work on the social as well as communication skills. Moving ahead, the third is cooperation lead to conflict resolution. Um, as all the IB teacher know that in the beginning of each academic year, there are certain rules and set of agreements that we have with our students so that there's a smooth process or the learning process goes smooth throughout the year. And we term them as essential agreement. And even that, those, those things were applied to corporate and leads to conflict resolution. Similarly, that is a one simple part of negotiation culture that can be used in everyday teaching learning practice. Okay, so as I mentioned, I have, when it comes to my bit of building a negotiating culture in my classroom. So I have basically melted down the entire negotiation culture into three simple steps for my classroom. And I hope these steps help you a lot if you are thinking of implementing them in your classroom as well. Uh, so the first stage we talk about is mutual understanding, right? So what happens in this stage is uh, the teacher mostly work as a passive participant in the first stage of conversation, or be it um, be it a decision making activity, or be it a discussion, or be it a question counter question round or interview session with the students. Everything, if you are practicing that on the stage one, be very conscious that you are listening, you are being a passive participant and giving all the ears to your students, right? Let them explain what they are trying to say to you. Let them explain their perspective. So through that mutual understanding on the stage one, it's more about collecting data as a teacher. By listening to my student, I'm collecting the data, like what is what is his perspective, and how can I counter question my students more on the basis of his perspective. So initially the few months would be the stage one. If you are in the starting academic year, I think even now if you want to start a negotiation culture in your classroom, so at stage one, just try to be a passive participant in the conversation, in the negotiation, and do active listening while conversing with your students. So negotiation can be between teacher and student, and student and any adult. Moving to stage number two, convincing your opponent. So in the first stage, if you observe, most of the interaction I discussed, or I shared is between teacher and student, right? Now, when we move to stage two, convincing your opponents. So the strategy basically I use in my classroom is to segregate my class into two groups, A or B, and I ask them to convince each other. I ask different groups to convince each other through your presentation or share different opinion or ask counter question. In the stage two, basically the students, the negotiation between student and student creates a, a challenging task for both the contestants because both are of same age, both have a different perspective, and both are not ready to get convinced. So the learnings are a bit more challenging. The magnitude of convincing to the opponent is much more difficult because in the stage one, the teacher was a passive participant where she was listening. In the stage two, the other participant is an active kid, active peer, active classmate of the student. So to convince him is difficult. And then comes the stage three. And before I come to stage three, I would really love to share like convincing your opponents. The stage two can be more beautifully worked in the group task or discussion or debate. So these three are the activities that can really help you build and practice stage two in your classroom with your students. Moving to the stage three, since now they know that how to communicate their perspective on the stage one, where they have talked to you about their perspective. Stage two, now they have communicated their perspective and also trying to convince the opponent to believe, to have faith in their uh, perspective. When it comes to convince, stage three, it's about convincing an adult. So it's more like uh, in the third stage, if they are coming to a teacher or they want to set a new rule in the classroom, or if I have given them a task, right? You have to decide, you have to design your classrooms, okay, classroom displays. So if they are designing the classroom display, they have to convince me and they have to convince me with the conviction. Means when they're convincing me, I will be demanding some evidence, I will be demanding justification. Okay, if you think that this wall should be your learner agency wall, then why? What is the reason that you choose only this section of the class as your learner agency class and not the other? So these are the three stages, like stage one, where mutual understanding, where teacher act as a passive uh, participant and focus more on listening to the perspective of the student. Stage two, where the activities are more focused between the students and students, where the students convince each other through their presentation about their perspective. Stage three, convince with conviction. Here, the teacher will act as an adult and ask for each and every decision or each and every perspective. She will counter question, she will act as a questioner, she will question and counter questions to the perspective, she will ask for justification and evidence. So far in my classroom, I am practicing these uh, three stages to build the negotiation culture in my classrooms. So far, I have reached stage two. Moving ahead. Now, what's the teacher's role as a good negotiator? So when we are learning, as I said, as I firmly believe, uh, practice what you preach, right? So as we are teaching our young learners to be a good negotiator, how as teacher we can be what is our role as to make our learners a good negotiator? So first is questioning and counter questioning. When it comes to negotiation, open-ended questions works amazing. So always as a teacher, if you are observing your students or into giving interventions to their discussions, always pose an open-ended questions to them so that they can have uh, their thinking caps on and think about their perspective one more time with more deeper understanding. Being a calm and active listener, it's very, very important that you, for the teacher to completely listen what your student want to say. And as a teacher, I know it's very, very difficult in a classroom of 20 kids or 25 kids where you cannot listen to each and every student. But then again, we have to find out the strategies. For example, talking, working in the groups or taking turns, advocating learners' autonomy. It happens that as a human, we all comes with certain expectations. As a teacher, coming in the classroom, keeping some expectation in the mind, actually sometimes ruins the beauty of the teaching, right? So one thing is, do have a faith in your learners and do listen to their perspective and try to understand their point of view. So that's what advocating learners autonomy, giving learners the space to have some choices and voices in the classroom, asking for justification and evidence to support their stance. In the learning journey, if you have anything, like either it be a classroom discussion or either it be a decision or related to any activity, or either it be co-creating the success criteria with the learner or any discussion, always try to bring in the culture of asking students the justifications of their responses. And can they give some examples? Can they bring some evidence? So here I would like this chance to share one anecdote from my class, and which is that while doing the unit uh, uh, space, so I posed a question in the classroom like, is it fine to spend so much of money in the space agencies for the research they do in the space, like to find life on other planet? So all the students, like that day, I think 18 students were present in my class. All the students said yes, because these research are important. There was only one student who denied, who said, no, I don't think we should spend so much of money. And I was a little surprised. Actually, I was not surprised. I acted a bit surprised. So I said, why do you think so? And she said, we have this one planet and we're not taking care of it. It's the air is getting polluted, the water is getting polluted, the resources are being depleted. We have this one huge planet and we are not taking care of it. Then what is the point of finding a life on other planets? Just to ruin one more planet. So I mean, so as a teacher, it's very, very important to allow space for a different perspective in your class. Hear your students and they will amaze you like anything. So here are a few basic questions that I ask my students in everyday classroom. Like rather than just saying, okay, this is the assignment we are doing, or have you understood, or is it okay? Do you have any query? Rather than straightforwardly asking those questions, here are some few specific questions that I use to initiate negotiation in the classroom and to make sure that my students feel respected as an adult in a classroom. They feel respected as a team in the classroom. So the few questions are we on the same page on this? So if we are doing a discussion or a debate and I write a point. So I definitely ask all the learners, okay, are we on the same page? Do you agree or you disagree? Even if you agree, you have to say, why do you agree? And even if you disagree, you have to say, why do you disagree? The next, so it made the learner think, okay, whatever answer he is giving, he has to come up with a good reason. He has to come up with a good justification. Second is, can we agree to submit the assignment tomorrow? Right? So it's not just the learning, it's the all the logistics in the classroom, like some of the assignment, making creating a transparency and involving student in it. And so I will be reading the two questions. We be developing a habit from today onwards. Do anyone has any disagreement with the process? So that's all from my side. This is a very, very small bit that I do in my classroom to foster negotiation culture, which is very, very important and very, very important skills that as per me. I hope you brag some points from my webinar, and thank you so much for listening to this webinar. If you have any query or doubt, you can contact me on the Gmail yadavekta300@gmail.com. Thank you so much once again, and I'm waiting if you have some more strategies to share with me or to discuss or to collab, do write a mail to me. Thank you so much.